good evening. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive and I'm Swati Joshi. A new bill in Telangana and a full-blown political storm. The Congress government has introduced a hate speech and hate crimes bill, pitching it as a necessary step to curb rising hate crimes and maintain social harmony. But the pushback has been immediate and sharp opposition reactions have been coming in. Parties have united against the bill, flagging concerns of misuse and forcing the government to send it to a select committee for further review. And this is no longer just a Telangana story. Similar provisions were earlier witnessed in Karnataka's hate speech bill, giving this debate a much wider national context. What was introduced as a law to regulate hate speech has now triggered a larger debate. Does it protect society or restrict free speech? That's the question that the opposition is asking. And that's where the battle lines are clearly drawn. The opposition is calling the bill draconian, warning that its broad provisions could be used to silence dissent, target journalists, and curb free expression. The Congress, on the other hand, is defending it as a necessary intervention, arguing that existing laws are inadequate and that a stronger framework is needed to deal with the growing spread of hate speech, especially online. Let's listen into how the opposition is responding to this move.
Democracy has been sent to the grave. Fascist Raj is going on in the country. The way the CRPC Act has been amended and certain clauses have been inserted, freedom of speech has been adequately compromised.
हेट स्पीच अगर उनको जो है ये भी नहीं मालूम कि इस बारे में पार्लियामेंट ने, संसद ने पहले ही कानून बनाया हुआ है और जो अधिकार जो है वो संविधान में संसद का है, उस पे आप जो है वो ओवरलैपिंग करने की कोशिश करेंगे और कहेंगे जी हम तो विधानसभा में अलग कानून बनाएंगे, संसद का अलग कानून होगा। तो पहले जब किसी ने बताया होगा तो पतली गली से भाग लिए।
BRS strongly opposes the hate speech and hate crimes prevention bill which was passed by the assembly. It may become a tool to curb the freedom of expression of the opposition parties and the social activists. While the country already have many such laws which will be useful in preventing such hate speeches or crimes, instead of implementing them, I don't see there is a need for any new such bills.
The hate speech bill which has been introduced by the Telangana government in the assembly yesterday is a bill which is actually brought out to suppress the political workers and political activists. The intention of the government is that who should speak what, who should speak when, and what to speak. This is the curb which is being actually imposed through this act on the people. This bill is brought to suppress the voices of the Bharatiya Janata Party mainly, to file false case against them.
Well, the opposition's attack is only getting sharper. Senior BRS leader K.T. Ramarao has launched a direct and detailed attack on the bill, calling it a threat to free speech, warning of its potential misuse and calling for its withdrawal. Now, let's take a look at the provisions that has led to this massive controversy. It's the fine print of this bill that is now at the center of the entire controversy. The law defines hate speech in very broad terms, covering spoken words, written content, signs, visual representation, and all forms of electronic communication. So the broad hate speech definition covers speech, signs, digital posts as well. Let's take a look at the other provisions. Wider hate crime scope. It includes incitement, abetment, and attempts. Strict legal status, offences cognizable and non-bailable. Punishment structure, it is up to 7 years and 10 for the repeat offenders for a repeat offence. And the burden of proof has been shifted onto the accused. The accused must now prove non-involvement. As far as content control powers are concerned, the authorities have been given the mandate. They can order takedown of those posts. Digital platform coverage, social media also comes under the law. There are some preventive powers given as well. So action can be taken even before the offence is committed if the authority who has been given a mandate through this bill feels that this crime can be committed. These are the provisions that led to a massive controversy. Of course, it has now been sent to the select committee. Let's open up the debate because the intent of the government is being questioned. We have NV Subhash, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, joining us along with Arushi Sana, political analyst. She'll be joining us anytime now. Kanishk Agrawal, technology and AI expert, is on the panel with us. We also have Khaleequr Rahman, leader of the Congress. Good evening to all of you. Let me begin with you, Mr. Rahman. The intent of the government is being questioned. The opposition says this is nothing but an attempt to muzzle free speech and suppress the views of the opposition, just to target the opposition in the state.
Yeah, good evening, Satiji, and good evening to all my co-panelists. First of all, I think the intent of the government is very clear, which should have been welcomed by all the opposition. Because today, in fact, the hate speech has become so common that everyone is indulging, especially, you know, why the opposition is scared. I mean, it is not for the opposition, or it is not for someone who is not making an hate speech. Hate speech is something which incites the communal disharmony, which, provokes, this religious sentiments of the other communities. So this is in order to curb all this. So I think instead of opposition, appreciating this and cooperating with the government, they I think have their own agendas, and they are scared.
The opposition is questioning the intent because they are citing certain examples of how BJP leader, social media in charge, I believe, was detained, was picked up for putting up posters of Revant Reddy. So they are questioning the intent because they say there are examples that have been set by this government.
No, see, because if you talk about the BJP ruled states, they are the cases of the hate, speech and which have been booked by the BJP state has gone up to almost about 79 to 80% in this last couple of years. So I mean, the allegation of the BJP or the opposition here is totally baseless, because see. Everyone knows, because a hate speech is not something which goes unnoticed. Even a layman.
But it's not just the opposition; it's your own allies who are questioning as well. Mr. Hanan Molla says freedom of speech has been compromised. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Allow Mr. Subhash to come in. So the intent is all right, says Khaleequr Rahman. The opposition is opposing just for the sake of it. This is the need of the hour, because even the opposition would back the government on the fact that hate crimes, hate speech, such incidents are on a rise.
Good evening to all. This is nothing but the bill is being introduced by the Congress party just to control the opposition. It's a political tool. If you see from past 26 months, there is so much of failure of the Congress party in Telangana. And if, Bharatiya Janata Party Karyakartas or leaders or the social media influencers or the platforms, if they talk about the failures, they are being detained, they are being picked up from their houses, and they are being put up in jails and the police station. This is a country of the democracy. It's the world's largest democracy, and we have all the freedom of expression and freedom of speech on that. Okay, if you put the bill, it is nothing but only to control the opposition and to expose one who exposes the failures of the Congress party. They do it. They have done same thing in Karnataka. There was so much of
But Mr. Subhash, Khaleequr Rahman was saying, irrespective of the bill, irrespective of this bill introduced by them in Karnataka or in Telangana, in BJP ruled states as well, your government takes action against anybody who criticizes the government's policies.
No, we did not put the bill on that. This bill, if you see the provisions in that, there is so much of justice is not being done on that, and it is directly putting behind the bars. And if the majority of the people, if they talk about it, it is nothing but it says that they're just hate speech. And if someone attacks the Bharatiya Janata Party,
who will define hate speech? Who will define hate speech? Anything and everything could be considered hate speech. Let me bring in Kanishk Agrawal. He's a technology and AI expert. Are the political parties being too sensitive about this? Because the bill, of course, does not specifically say that they're going to act against political leaders. It talks about individuals, and that could be anybody.
Yeah, see, from a bill urgency perspective, see, it's real. But the real question here is that whether a state level law with undefined terms and no platform-specific obligations, is it the right instrument to obtain a problem that can operate at an internet speed and national scale? So if you look into the central rules, we have an IT Rule Act 21, it falls short on no state-specific enforcement hook is there, no algorithmic accountability is there, traceability is also creates a privacy risk, and hate speech is not defined in the IT rules. That's the major problem. So platforms, they apply their own community rules and standards that differ from the Indian law. And there is no mandatory provocative and detection of these platforms they are reactive, they are not preventive, and they are binded by the current rules. Now, if you look into this bill that Telangana is planning, there are some strengths and there are some gaps. The strength is that it covers the social media, Reels, WhatsApp forward, but there is no platform takedown obligations. So the onus is on the user only. Now, the second problem is that they have mentioned non-bailable, cognizable offense, which is very good. It's a strong deterrent for repeatable offenders.
Right.
But disharmony is undefined. It's a very broad term.
Okay.
So you can criminalize any political satire as well. And the other point is on the
clear
designated
definition.
officer.
So the interpretation, yes. So largely it is based on, it will depend on interpretations, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay. So let me bring in, let me very quickly bring in Arushi. Since it will also cover social media, one should remember that the Supreme Court struck down 66A of the IT Act in 2015 after, a lot of incidents came to fore of it being misused, especially when it came to curbing criticism online. And that's also one of the arguments that is being used in this case as well by the opposition, which says this is specifically designed to target the opposition.
Right. But ma'am, the funniest thing is that there's already an existing provision in the new criminal laws under section 196, 197 and 299 Bharatiya Nyaya Sangh that is targeting hate speech against both religion and national integration, right? So it's like when the Government of India has already initiated the online hate speech prevention bill, then what is the need for only two Congress rule states, which are which are Telangana and Karnataka, to sort of initiate their own reinvention of the bill? Because this just gives the impression that they're trying to show that they're above the national government. They are showing no regard for the sanctity of the federal structure of our constitution, right? And like my fellow panelists said that, well, how do you define hate speech? It's very important, because even if you manage to define it in legal parlance, the interpretation of the law is what is subjective and a grey area.
Right.
So that become the scope of exploitation by the Congress party. And ultimately, you have to see that as a whole, how is this bill going to affect the community at large?
Right.
Like, has there been a precedence in the past where introducing such a bill has brought a lot of positive change in society or communities? I don't think so. So I think it's not a very...
Okay, but let me take a counter on the points that you've raised. So you already have BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 196 and 197, Khaleequr Rahman. Arushi argues, why do you need this specific bill, this specific law? One other concern is the provision that is of collective liability. If an individual commits an offence or as per law has committed an offence, then there is a provision to actually act against the entire leadership of the organization or whoever is in charge at that point of time.
Yeah, see, there is, in fact, the BNS is there, as quoted by my esteemed panelist, but there is no comprehensive law as of now on the hate speech. And because of that, there has not been any enforcement of that. And now, coming to your question, as far the intent of the government is concerned, the intent of the government is in order to stop the elements. There are some disturbing elements who try to create the disharmony and try to, incite the communal disharmony. It is in order to stop them. It is not targeted at any political party. I want to give you one small example.
But that is what you are saying. The opposition.
No.
Okay.
That's what I want to give you one small example here in 2023, because the Congress's social media team in Telangana, they just retweeted something actually for which the action was taken by the MH and the entire team came from Delhi to Hyderabad just in order to arrest them. That is called the political vendetta.
But
that's what I'm telling.
What you're saying is exactly what I said earlier about the point about misuse. One other provision, which is preventive action powers, that in case the authorities who've been given the mandate feel that the offence is going to be committed, so action can be taken even before the offence is committed. How is that fair?
No. See, how can the action be taken before the...
That is what the preventive action power says, that provision...
No, preventive action, because see, again, your interpretation is wrong. That's
No,
what,
it is for, I understand it is for repeat offences, but even before a crime is committed, how can you take action?
No, that's what it is, because what I'm trying to tell you, because no action can be taken before the crime is committed. But this is in order to stop all those who, in fact, try to post on the social media the explosive content in order to create the disharmony, in order to disturb. I think the BJP, everyone should, and even the BRS and all those who are opposing this should back the government's intent in this.
Mr. Subhash, you should actually be supporting the government. Mr. Khaleequr Rahman says, why should the political parties have any problem with that?
If it is merely, the controlling the particular agenda or particular, issue, that's okay. But it is only to shield, the ruling party from creates some kind of a ruckus or, a nuisance or something. Then they will be, before anticipating, before anything happens, there is a provision that they can go and then arrest and then put behind bars and then file the cases on that. So the government should be for the people, by the people. And it is not for the people. It is not for the government. It is for the people. Why the laws are made?
Okay.
Because to control the law and order situation.
All right. So the government in Telangana says, just like the Karnataka government, this is the need of the hour. But the opposition says this is not to curb hate speech. This is to curb free speech. That's where both political parties stand. Arushi and gentlemen, that's all the time I have for the debate. Thank you very much for joining us.